Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, we investigated this room. It's a tenant's room in the Garrett household, and the occupant is one William Shakespeare, an aspiring actor. Or maybe just an actor who's fallen on hard times, come to think of it. Well, the poor man's dead, and unfortunately for us, all the clues seem to implicate none other than Soseki Natsume, that poor man. Yes, indeed, we're still in that flashback in between the 4th and 5th cases of the first game. And it's so weird. What is the deal with this soap? Soap hidden in the bricks of this windowsill? What's going on with that? Anyway, Soseki was carted off to the precinct, and now Gregson's back. I think our time investigating here might be up. But before we begin, something really important to share. I obtained and consumed some ramen. Now all is right in this world. Good times. Inspector Gregson, back so soon? After I threw that little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Oh, I see. Well, we'd better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low being back in his cell again so soon. Yes! 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 I have never been so happy in my life! Yes! Wait, so... Hold up, if he's alive, what's the crime in this case actually going to be? Okay, wait, no, we actually do have precedent. We do have precedent. Miss Green, look no further than Miss Green. She was the nexus around a whole case revolved around her, but she survived. But there was still a crime that occurred. She was assaulted by a knife, so maybe something bad has happened to this man. I'm sure. We should probably go and... What's wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Kia! Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player. That struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how soundeth the next part? It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Indeed, oh happy day! Walking Dead! The fella isn't dead at all. What was that nonsense he was saying, though? I think, yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. Shakespeare. So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. And Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime, whatever that now was. It's him, the man in yellow! I knew it! I knew he'd be back!
Whatever do you think will happen now?
Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life.
I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shamspear did consume poison, as we deduced. But was it an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody.
I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? It looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings.
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Excuse me, could we have a word?
Ah!
Everyone has such dynamic poses. He just ran off.
I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it?
I do too, but I don't remember. Huh. Well, what a serendipitous day. I suppose we can move on. We can't go to Shamspear's room. I don't think we quite want to check on Green yet. But speaking to the Gyarados would be great. And I think it's safe to say that Soseki's still in interrogation, so we want to go there first. But for now, let's examine. With the exception of the top floor where Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados live, all the windows are bricked up.
Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows the property had. In order to pay less tax, the poorer members of society filled in many of their windows.
But the tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely.
Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have the work done.
Yes, that is a sad state of affairs.
Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room.
I suppose that's the price you pay for living in very cheap accommodation.
It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that. There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Gyarados residence.
I remember our talk with Soseki about it.
I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact.
Did you know that bicycles are the most energy-efficient mode of transportation that humans have ever created so far? It's true. That one seems very warped, though, especially the front wheel. Is that to make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think?
No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted.
Then there's good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think.
Oh dear, I fear you may be right.
The Gyarados household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prominent position there in the corner. Sometimes when I look at the building, I can't help feeling that it's all a bit of a slant.
It does rather look as though it would collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it?
And isn't it supposed to be haunted as well? I think I might have a hunch as to why Soseki-san has such a hunched back. You know, I think our greatest minds, our scientists, could really do with determining what the most comfortable reading position is. Like, I can sit still and play video games in my computer chair for hours on end. But when I read a book, boy, I am moving constantly. London's blanketed in fog again today, and the sky is covered in cloud. If you look carefully in the distance, you can just make out the Crystal Tower being built.
Ah, the Crystal Tower, yes. The centerpiece of the great exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time.
Everyone's talking about the Great Exhibition of London at the moment, it seems.
Well, it's to be the largest event of its kind anywhere in the world, with technology and scientists from all over. I can't wait for it myself.
Do you think visiting students from the Far East like us will be granted entry?
The last great exhibition that was held in London had more than 6 million visitors, it seems. And this time, the British are determined to make it an even bigger success to outdo the Paris exposition.
I see. That's an incredible number of people. And with so many people expected to attend, we should easily be able to slip in unnoticed.
There's always the honest approach of buying tickets at the main entrance, Mr. Naruhodo.
Coward talk, Susato. Stick it to the man. Oh, Mr. Snowman's still here. Why has somebody built the snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? Oh, that's right! Yeah, Japanese build snowmen with just 2 spheres. Huh. Really? But it already has a perfectly good body. Wait, did I even read that?
That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's part of the snowman's body.
Really? But it already has a perfectly good body.
Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner.
Now we're looking at him as if he's strange, poor man. Know how he feels.
If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it?
Oh. Huh.
After all, real people do have 3 sections: head, torso, and legs.
Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? Might be running out of things to look at. Oh, yeah. Nothing's relevant anymore. That's everything. So, let's step in, out of the cold, and whoops. I did look at the envelope, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I remember that. Whoops, wrong button. As I was saying, let us step out of the cold and near to the fire. That's comforting. Nothing seems to have changed. Actually, I wonder what's on the right. Maybe there's still broken stuff from that fight. Here we are again, the eccentric landlord's eccentric top-floor abode.
We're here because Mr. Gairdeb's the one who discovered the incident this morning, don't forget.
I wonder if we are due for a repeat performance. Alright, I already know the shtick. Show me the other side of your face, sir. Ah, you chaps, eh? Yes, good morning, sir. Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday. It was quite a trial. As much for Mr. Gairdeb as anyone, really. Came straight back here after all that business of the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning.
I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Gairdeb.
Yes, I suppose you'd like to know all about the dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room. Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Oh, well, alright then. Hello. Just gonna look around your place of residence. invade all of your privacy.
Oh, a copy of Rand's magazine. The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes is being read all over London. Isn't it wonderful?
Naturally, one asks oneself if such a singular detective could really exist. But having met the chap, it's undeniable. He is most certainly singular. Singularly dangerous. That's genuine public opinion for you, Miss Susato. Perhaps it should be reflected in the stories.
Make no mistake, Mr. Naruhodo. I intend to snuff out the sort of public opinion we just heard personally.
I'm starting to see where Mr. Sholmes' untainted reputation comes from now. There's a single apron drying on that enormous cannon-shaped clothes horse, look.
Huh? No, Mr. Naruhodo. That's a real cannon.
I knew that. I was just testing you. Piece of history, that is. Seen plenty of action on the battlefield, I can tell you. Now the old girl and I are just enjoying the peace and quiet of retirement together. And of course she'd come in handy if the enemy decided to launch an attack again.
Did he ever do that pipe twirling animation in the first game? I think that might be new.
Is there a war going on that I don't know about?
That's your military uniform, isn't it, Mr. Garrett?
Well, ceremonial garb, yes. But hanging on the wall ever since my retirement bash. Not in active service now, you know. Doesn't mean much to me anymore. You can have the old thing if you wanted it.
Well, it might suit Lord Van Zeeks, perhaps. An overly ostentatious outfit like this could be just what he needs.
Very tactful, Miss Susato. Very tactful indeed. Ah, yes, those enormous mortar shells. It's quite something seeing them up close, isn't it?
Didn't you say something about firing them into the barracks, Mr. Garrett?
Ah, you remember, do you? Just a little mishap that occurred during training one day. What are you doing firing on your own men? The old captain bellowed at me.
Not surprised. A little mishap doesn't really do it justice, does it?
Well, one has these little incidents when one's a hot-headed young private. Perhaps I should put some evidence that resulted from one of my little mishaps on display.
Oh, does the great lawyer, like the great detective, want to exhibit some trophies of his finest moments?
Good to see Mr. Garrett Medal of Honor still proudly displayed on the wall.
The inscription reads, "For distinguished participation," if you remember.
Yes, I remember, because I remember thinking even I might stand a chance of picking up honors like that. Wouldn't know what to look at me now, perhaps, but I had my devil-may-care days, you know.
Devil-may-care? What did you get up to?
Well, all in the past now, of course, and best left there.
Best not. I want to know now.
You look very dashing in your uniform there, Mr. Garrett. Ah, that old portrait, eh? Drawn by an art student who used to rent the room downstairs.
Oh, you look so wonderfully young and courageous and strong.
Yes, well, the chap presented it to me one day and asked if I'd let him off the month's rent in return.
Oh, I see. So you did, presumably?
I bally well did not.
Oh.
A portrait is a portrait, but rent is rent, eh?
And yet it's still there proudly on the wall.
We know what that screen is hiding now. The aftermath of the fiery altercation the other day. Don't suppose I'll be able to clear that mess up for some time now.
Oh dear, this must be a very difficult situation for you.
I'll say, people talk about twists of fate and whatnot. This is a twist and a half, a rotten show all around. He's clearly struggling with everything that's happened. Still the broken glass. There's a good view over the wintry East End from up here. It's an impressively gray scene. There's really nothing comparable in Japan. And down below, Briar Road, partly blanketed in snow.
And the pavement where poor Mrs. Green was struck in the back by that knife.
Thinking about it, this is the only room in this building that actually has a window to the outside world. Sometimes, Great Britain really does seem like a strange land, doesn't it?
I suppose all foreign cultures seem strange at first. Imagine how an Englishman would feel on arriving in Japan and seeing people with a chanmagi topknot.
I really should look up how to pronounce that. Well, that's a good point. That's an impressive collection of cakes on that fancy silver cake stand there.
I feel sure that it was full of cakes when we first investigated in here as well.
Yes, quite right. Haven't touched it since. Haven't done much at all, really, since it all happened. Time's rather stood still for me, you know.
Oh.
Time has stood still? Now that's an interesting phrase. I might be able to use that excuse when I'm next supposed to be tidying the office.
You could just tidy up, Mr. Naruhodo.
She's a mind reader. And still that conspicuous missing candlestick. These shelves look like they've been completely torn apart by a wild beast. Not too far off the mark. Reminds me of the Battle of Maiwan, don't you know? Ah, the experiences of a seasoned veteran. Enemy had us surrounded on all sides. We really thought we were done for, the whole Bally Company. We were taking a real pounding from their cannons, so all we could do was run for our lives. Oh, I thought that story was going in a different direction, actually.
These animations are completely new.
That slump was definitely not in the first game, right? That's so cool. Like, usually when characters return in this franchise, like, I'm thinking Lotta Hart and Will Powers and Wendy Oldbag has new costumes, but no, the poses everyone does for returning characters are still absolutely the same every time. This is really fresh. I like it. I guess that... I would guess that having 3D models just there, ready to go from the last game, makes it way easier, because it's just like moving the model around to make new poses, right? But with sprite art, you have to kind of draw something brand new from scratch and make sure it's consistently on model with everything else that's sprite for that character. It would be a lot more work. Like, spriting is really difficult. When you're done for, you're really done for. That's not what a lawyer who often finds himself under fire wants to hear. Well, me looking around, let's converse. Oh, wait, no, first, most important thing. Mr. Garrideb, could I show you this? Been quite a couple of days, as you can imagine. I'm afraid I'm rather tired. Haven't really got the energy in the old eyeballs, to be honest with you. Some other time, then. Yeah, I don't think he would have anything unique to say about this, but what about the soap? Mr. Garadeb, could I show you this? Yeah, no. Do you know who sent this letter? Oops. No, he does not. Time to talk. Tell me about this morning's incident. I want to hear your perspective. It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened. Ah, well, that hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but no bally answer.
And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door.
Well, I called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course. Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour.
That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior, I'd have to kick your door down every morning.
Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that. Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden?
Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door.
The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shamspear. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now.
And how would you describe him?
In a word, destitute.
Destitute?
Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. So hard to choose which category Soseki-san would fall into.
Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude.
He was doing the research as well.
Research? Into what?
Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays of the old bard myself, you know. Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Right.
Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, as you know, or Sao, and many of his works have already been translated.
It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Someone was too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there?
Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspear would have much in common.
Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that.
Mr. Naruhodo, really, how rude!
She's a mind reader. Yeah, he's probably just mumbling the blue text. After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning? Well, now, must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember, and it was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garadeb noticed there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspear got back. And the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Ryunosuke, please correct this man. Tell him that he's alive. Is everything alright, Mr. Sato?
Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garadeb, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly?
Not a big fan of stairs, not with this blasted leg.
Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean.
Yeah, this kind of question was asked in the previous game, but he dodged the question and I'm not sure we ever got an answer. Oh,
that's a very good point.
I can't imagine you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it? I say, I know what you're thinking, and it's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I?
Then how did you know, Mr. Garadeb?
It's the gas, woman. The gas tells me everything. The gas? Someone cut the cheese. What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes. Yes, I'd more or less worked that out.
Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main.
Yes, I understand that too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly, but at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why?
Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual. And that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it?
Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe.
Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable.
Jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless, long worn out, and barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here and they glow brighter in the rest of the house. Oh, right, I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere. You've got it. But that's such an innocent answer. Why would he be so dodgy about it at first? Something smells. I think it's the farts.
Oh, of course, because when people come back home in the evening, and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires.
Clever. In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house.
Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garadeb. Absolutely fascinating.
Oh, well, nothing to it, really. And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case, either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garadeb is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again.
A good idea.
Huh. You know, I think Joan might not be in this game. I don't think she's relevant. I think that's the only reason why she wouldn't show up here. I'm fine with that. I'm not too fond of Joan. Let us move. Oh, this poor man. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I expected.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now?
Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire.
Oh, yes? What is he? Tell me, is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me?
Let me guess, you're talking about Mr. Sholmes.
He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost. But his diabolic deductions, they're not of this world. They've left me.
Ah, cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you.
Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too.
Yes, moving on. We have some wonderful news.
Oh? The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again.
Phrasing. Phrasing, for the love of God. Now, in the absolutely worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder.
That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume?
It's terrible!
Oh, I'm stuck in the cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess you're a killer. Why the mustache? Constant questions.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Ah, that selfish shyster. Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you were going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishy-washy William.
Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamspeare was never actually dead in the first place.
Yes, that might make sense. And I'm pleased that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh. Oops.
Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamspeare, didn't you?
I'm not saying another word. I demand to have a lawyer present.
Who do you think I am? Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story.
Why am I cursed like this?
Well, yeah, I can't examine. That makes sense, but, I kind of want to present first. Have I shown you this before, Mr. Natsume?
Oh, yes, the sweet, sweet aroma of our beloved homeland.
It shows that the wearer is a defense lawyer. It means nothing in Great Britain, of course, but I still wear it.
Oh, I know exactly how you feel, locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. My Haramaki belly band. I don't feel right without it.
Your Haramaki?
It's perfect for the cold English winters. Just the thing to keep my tummy warm.
Yes, I see the link, almost. A Haramaki, yeah, I know what those look like. It's like, kind of like the same... It's like something you slip on. It doesn't even have any knots to tie on. It's just around you. It's like an exerciser's headband, but larger, and it fits around your waist. That's kind of it. But obviously, instead of of like a soaking up sweat. It like keeps you warm and holds your things if you tuck stuff into it like a sword. Tell me about your receipt.
Mr. Natsume, about this receipt. It occurs to me now that it was those confounded books that saw me arrested the first time, too.
Oh, yes, I suppose that's true.
After I spent my precious pennies on them, that's the thanks I get. Now I don't know when I'll read them. No, not when. If I may very well hate them too much to even open their covers. I don't know that we can blame the books for everything that's happened, Mr. Natsume.
Okay, do you know anything about the soap?
Mr. Natsume, what do you know about this? There it is! That lathery lowlife that took my neighbor's life and sent me sliding to the depths of despair. Slippery, sickly, psychopathic saboteur.
Hey, that one began with a P, that's cheating. You've really gone off soap, haven't you?
Absolutely, and I've made up my mind. The next time someone gives me soap as a present, it's friendship finished firmly forever.
I don't know that we can blame soap for everything that's happened, Mr. Natsume. Mr. Natsume, it's nothing much, but...
Huh? It's been too long since I've been offered a present with that delightfully humble etiquette of our homeland.
What?
You're too kind. I accept gladly.
Sorry, but I wasn't trying to give it to you, actually. Oops. How about the envelope? He has a low level of standard for gifts. Now then, what happened? Tell me everything. Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume?
There's nothing to tell, but Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that accursed case yesterday.
The case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back.
It's hard to believe that was only yesterday. After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings. And that evening, at 9:30 it must have been, I visited Mr. Shamspeare.
So you did go to the victim's room then?
As we feared. I didn't do anything wrong. I'd never been to his room before. It was the first time.
Then what made you decide to go?
I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell.
That ties in with what Mr. Gerdeb said. The victim went out and came back after 8.
We met again later that evening at around 9 or just after, when I took him some nice tea I'd brewed as a gift.
So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then?
And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, were you? Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet. Who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate.
Huh? Oh, that is nth level philosophy right there, dude. What? Whoa. I'm sure.
Such a stimulating subject, Shakespeare.
And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shamspeare's tea?
No, never, not at all. Team Juliet won, that was me, and when I left his room, The flamboyant fellow was fighting fit, I swear it categorically.
Alright, I believe you.
Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence? I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time I've learned that it's no place for me. It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture. There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me, they all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse. But even in my room, I find no respite from my fears. I've moved more times than I can remember, and then 1 week ago I moved into Briar Road.
But why? I mean, why do you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable.
Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money it spoke to me. The rent? Obviously there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed.
Cursed? Cursed how?
The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there. Oh no! He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one could explain why.
Surely no one would want to live in a room with a history like that. I would. I don't give a crap. I don't believe in ghosts. And if a ghost did appear, I would immediately end myself so I could fight it in my ghost form.
I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money. A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning.
Brave or blinkered?
But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was.
Man, I gotta say, this animation he's doing right here, it is one of the funniest animations in this entire franchise. I love it.
Gosh, was it really so awful? How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened? At first, it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me.
Do you think that might just have been your mind playing tricks on you?
No. My mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to that place.
What do you want to bet is just a gas leak? A nightmare? You've been having bad dreams, you mean?
All the souls who've died in that room lean over me in my sleep and try to strangle me.
Are you sure Wagahai isn't just trying to cuddle? That really is horrible.
And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamspear was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room. You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible. Yes, you're right, I know it, and that's why. I'm already searching for the next room with history to call home. I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history.
Phew. Susato-san knows how to make that man listen.
Of course. Mr. Lord of the Manor is worried about the curse under my room as well.
You mean Mr. Garrideb?
Yes, he knows that if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again.
Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near the place.
Perhaps? That may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps in his tenants' movements.
You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. There must be a reason why he keeps such a close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms.
What do you mean he pays so much attention to the gas lamps? Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume. Please forget I said anything. Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well.
What's important is that Mr. Shamspear isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come round and he's able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released.
Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right.
Man, no, something's telling me, Shamspear's perception of what happened to him, it's going to implicate Soseki. We're gonna have to fight against the victim, aren't we? Oh wow, has that ever happened before? Oh wow, that'd be really cool. Please, I'll make that happen.
Excuse me?
Who is this?
Inspector Gregson. I couldn't help overhearing what you just said. And on that note, I have some good news and some bad news. Oh, which do you want first? Always, every time, the bad news comes first. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle. Right, well, in that case, the good news it is. Huh? Sorry, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way. Then why did you ask me my preference? As you might have heard, the victim, Mr. Shamspear, was just unconscious. He's come round now.
Yes, we saw it happen in all its terrifying glory.
He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already. Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume? Oh, thank goodness, it's all over then. I can leave this somber cell.
Sorry, no, that's not on the cards.
What? Why ever not, Inspector? Mr. Shamspear has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night.
Implicated someone?
Oh dear. You don't mean...
I'm sorry to say I do. Yes, he's pointed the finger at you, Mr. Natsume.
Ag! By sweet poison did he seeketh to end my life. That wicked caitiff, Soseki Natsume.
No.
So I'm afraid you'll be appearing in court as planned. You'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations. No!
I nailed it, didn't I?
Oh my god.
In order to defend our client, we'll fight against the victim. Yo! Oh yes, please take that formula and throw it out the window. This is great. And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. Hello? Oh, that was late. To be continued. Next time. But was that little ditty new? I don't know. Now let's just progress just a little. Get that music going here. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. Well, Ryunosuke, you can ponder that strange feeling. For now... You know, the biggest thing on my mind right now is... I feel like the Ace Attorney team over at Capcom, I feel like they got huge inspiration from that Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright crossover game we did. These two great Ace Attorney games, they were made after that, and I see so much of that game in these two. For one thing, the character designs, I think... Honestly, I see a lot of that post-human character I forget the name of, who was always dashing about town. I see a lot of her in Miss Green, and in William Shamspeare. Maybe it's just his clothes, but he reminds me of Birdley the Bard. And, that other bard who was upset about Birdley. Oh my god, I think his name was just straight up Bardley. Yeah, Bardley the Bard. Maybe? Yeah, I see a lot of them in him too. And honestly, the general, body shapes and even the tropes among some members of the jury and the side characters, I see a lot of those Layton versus characters in them. And I love it. And the bucking of tradition, the cases, the situations were quite playful with the formula. It didn't adhere so strictly to it. And now here we have mainline Ace Attorney doing the same thing. Man. Layton Versus was such a great game. And I still really do want to play more Layton games, but I suppose it would be best if I Let's Play them sometime in the far future. Lord knows my upcoming schedule for what's following this game is packed full. May as well say it, by the time I finish this here Let's Play, surely the next collection of Ace Attorney will come out, that bundle of Ace Attorney 4, 5, and 6. Already Let's Played 4, but 5 and 6 are new, and I've been waiting for those. But, yeah, no, I'm not gonna be playing that right away. No, I definitely need a huge break from Ace Attorney. I'd like to play at least 1 or 2 games in between. But hey, don't be sad about it. Look at it this way. The more time I put in between this game and Ace Attorney 5, the less time there will be between Ace Attorney 6 and whatever the hell's next for the Ace Attorney series. Ugh. Every video, man, we get closer to catching up. But, no, next time... Not next time, but after I'm done with this playthrough, I'm fixing to play a game that was quite forcefully recommended to me by a friend on my Discord. I know nothing about it, and I won't tell you the name here. Keep the mystery alive, but it should be kinda short, maybe somewhere around 20-ish videos. I don't know. Boy, I am getting way off topic. Anything else I want to say? I'm just so glad that... just so glad that Williams alive. I love that man, and we're gonna have a lot more of him soon. Oh, and I'm excited to see the jury. I hope it's just all new. Except for one, you know what would be hilarious? That escaped Russian criminal. With the long face and the mouse pet, remember? You know what would be funny? If that man, Villain, yeah, his name is Villain. It would be hilarious if he was never actually important, but he had like his own little saga going on off in the distance, and this little plot line that resolves itself over time. Like, I wouldn't want him to ever take the witness stand or be interviewed or cross-examined or anything. Just have him be on the jury and get little updates here and there in the dialogue that go like, oh, his plot's advancing, where is he going with this? That'd be great. But, I still think the soap is hiding drugs. I really do. And, maybe that man in yellow with a huge chin is, like, part of the smuggling? Like, maybe... Look, that's twice now we've seen that man in yellow in front of the Gerardeb household. He doesn't live there, and I don't think he's quite friends with anyone. I think the reason he was looking through the window wasn't just to see what was going on because it looked weird, but with the bricks missing, maybe he was waiting for the handoff, the movement of product. Because I still think it's drugs in those soap, man. What else could it be? I mean, it could be like little tiny rolled up bits of parchment paper or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't think William's selling state secrets. It's probably drugs. I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.